I know it's a tired and obvious statement at this point, but it's one of my favorites. Everything Sweet Baby Inc. touches turns to trash. They are hired for some of the worst projects possible, and almost every single title they have affected has been a complete and utter failure. And Hyper Light Breaker is a game that has faced a lot of backlash. These developers haven't really reacted particularly well to some of the criticisms that people have levied towards their game and also their partnerships. But now we're finding out less than 2 weeks before the launch of their new game, they are going through major layoffs again. I have a few different things to show off, but before I get into the topic, if you enjoy the content I create, check out the links in the description, join the community in my live streams, and consider supporting through Patreon or YouTube memberships. Now, yes, I do not think Sweet Baby Inc. is the only reason why a lot of these studios and games are failing, but it's clearly a problem that is underlying at the company that Sweet Baby Inc. helped progress, because they wouldn't be hiring a company like Sweet Baby Inc. if they themselves were not activists, if they themselves were actually listening to their customers. And it's very clear that most of the developers behind these games that Sweet Baby Inc. has worked on are very like-minded. They are activists themselves. They don't really care about their customer base. They just care about making a statement. And Hyper Light Breaker is a game that kind of came and went. A lot of people really enjoyed the first game, Hyper Light Drifter, but the second game is wildly different. It's at very negative scores on Steam. The game is already dead, but now we're finding out that they are on another wave of layoffs. And yes, I do partially think that this is SBI's fault, because if SBI hadn't been involved in this game, sure, I don't think that it would have done absolutely amazing. I don't think that it would have topped any Steam charts, but people still would have been more likely to give it a chance. Now, there are millions upon millions of gamers that see that stupid green baby logo and they say, nope, I'm putting that on my do not want list, block list, unfollow list. And now, less than 2 weeks before the launch of its next game, the Hyper Light Studio Heart Machine reportedly lays off even more employees. I had just talked not even that long ago about layoffs. At the beginning of October, we had found out that development was ending on Hyper Light Breaker, as the studio had said that it's making layoffs. So it looks like Hyper Light Studio Heart Machine may have suffered another round of layoffs, as multiple employees are reporting on social media that they've been let go. The reported job losses come just 3 weeks after a previous round of layoffs that saw more than a dozen people put out of work. And yes, sure, a dozen people doesn't sound like a lot, but we are talking about a smaller studio here. We're not talking about a Ubisoft or an EA or an Obsidian or a Bethesda. We're talking about what is really an indie to AA size studio. So yeah, keep that in mind, but to them, a dozen people is a lot, never mind the new wave of layoffs. So 3 employees have posted about their layoffs on Blue Sky so far, 1 on October 28th and 2 on October 29th. Now, if you are on Blue Sky and you actively use the platform, I don't really trust you. I have a Blue Sky so that I have my handle, which, funny enough, Blue Sky actually gave it to me, which was nice of them, I suppose. But unless you're using the platform to meme on these people, or you're using the platform just to sit and look at what people like Stephen King are melting down about, I don't really trust you. It's a little bit suspicious. I think that Blue Sky is, of course, just another leftist echo chamber. And sure, maybe if you work at a large company, they require you to have all these different forms of social media, but that doesn't mean that you have to be active there. So the Heart Machine community and PR manager posted a video saying, Heart Machine has just laid off a bunch more people effective immediately. By the time Possessors comes out on November 11th, I don't know if anyone who worked on the game will even be at the company anymore. That's game dev. And I hadn't even heard of this game, which definitely doesn't bode well for them. Somebody who constantly has eyes on the industry, somebody who constantly is skimming through press releases and social media posts and discussions about studios like this. I haven't heard any information, which I feel like that means it's going to come out and be another failure, just like their last game, Hyper Light Breaker. So Hyper Light Drifter had released a couple of years ago. a decade ago, almost actually. This was the first game in this series. As you can see, 34 players in game right now, but what is most important is the all-time peak of 4,954 players. Not that much, but if we take a look at one of their newest games, Hyper Light Breaker, the game that Sweet Baby Inc. had heavily worked on, its all-time peak 9 months ago was 5,230, and keep in mind that this game had launched in early access, so there were a lot of people who were planning to buy it at full release, but they canceled the full release, and now it's just going to stay in early access because they ended development on it just a couple of weeks ago. I had made another video on it. It will be linked down below, but it had released on Steam's early access back in January. The game is a prequel to Drifter, but rather than an overhead pixel art action adventure game, it's a third-person polygonal one, much like the difference between 2D and 3D Zelda games. Now the studio has confirmed, the game developer, that the early access period is ending for Hyper Light Breaker after around 9 months with development on the game coming to an end, and it's really no shocker to see why. Again, all-time peak was 5,230. That is absolutely abysmal. We know that the review scores are extremely bad. Recent reviews very negative and English reviews mixed. But if we take a look here, a lot of people are just saying, yeah, this is absolutely horrendous. I don't know why you guys thought this was a good idea. It pains me to write this, but don't buy it. Devs got fired and development is stopping. While it's nowhere near a complete clean experience, save your money. Ending development due to layoffs. I like the game, but don't buy. We should all be refunded who bought it. I loved Drifter, but Breaker fell far short and missed many marks that Drifter gave. Pains me to write a negative review on something from Heart Machine, but have to, as they overextended their team. Fired developers, saw the signs of what was to come with the delayed release, a barely playable frame rate, and then the content was severely lacking. I'd avoid their future games. I've been bothered about the fate of Breaker ever since they were teasing Possessors, and it proved to be true, and they don't care about finishing the games they've already released. Do not purchase this game. It has been abandoned by the studio while still in early access. The game is not finished. It had plenty of promise, and the development team was doing well to get it there, but up until abruptly they were taken out before the early access goals were even met. And there are some positive here's of people saying it was a solid roguelite hack and slash, and they love Drifter, and this has a lot of similarities aesthetically, musically, atmospherically. But yeah, I mean, I personally would not support Heart Machine at this point. I would personally not buy any of their games right now or even going forward, and I do know that part of this is on the company, it's not on the developers, but clearly there is an issue going on with Activision because they did hire Sweet Baby Inc. for this game. I think that if you suck so much at your job, you have to hire somebody else to do your job for you. You probably don't deserve to have that job. There are studios out there that worked with Sweet Baby Inc. because it's like-minded people in these ranks, and that's why I can't particularly say I feel all that bad. We do know that Sweet Baby Inc. did a hell of a lot on this game as well. Early world building, story structure, character development. I mean, we are talking the whole 9 yards here. And when you have a DEI consultant on your project, yeah, that just doesn't sit really well with me, and I know a lot of other people. So right now we're seeing another studio that worked with SBI going under. Just a few days ago, I was talking about Remedy. Yesterday, I also talked about Remedy yet again, and it looks like, well, less than 2 weeks before the launch of their new game, which, by the way, I don't think any of us knew was even releasing, Hyper Light Studio Heart Machine has laid off even more employees. But that's all that I really had to discuss in this video. Let everyone know your thoughts in the comments below. If you found this important and informative, make sure to give it a like, share it, and subscribe to the channel. And if you didn't, give it a dislike. I appreciate your support either way, but I'll talk to you all again in the next video really soon.